Welcome back to Julie's Infinite Playlist. I'm your host, Julie. Before we get started, I wanted to give a few shout-outs to some people who left reviews and rated the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Thank you, Devin Zavala of OCD Productions. He takes amazing live videos of bands at shows, which you can watch on YouTube. And thank you to Dave Pruitt of Dave TV. You can find his awesome work at davetv.org and also on YouTube. You can also hear what Dave TV is all about by checking out his episode of this podcast. And thank you to Tim Gadvan, aka Animal Abstract. His music is available wherever you listen to music. He also has an episode of this podcast and will be returning for a second episode to talk about his new EP, so look for that March 13th. If you like this podcast, please rate and review on Apple Podcasts. It goes a long way in helping out. Ratings and reviews will help us get on the iTunes charts, which means more listeners and potentially some other things that would be a great help. Plus, if you rate and review, I'll give you a shout out at the beginning of an episode. Please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, and or Spotify. And if you'd like to help out a little more, you can become a supporter on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Julie's Infinite Playlist. You can support anywhere from $1 to $10 a month for some great rewards. You can also make a one-time donation through PayPal. Just visit juliesinfiniteplaylist.com and click on PayPal. Doing either of those will also get you a shout out at the beginning of an episode. Today's episode features KickAction Collective. Enjoy. Welcome to Julie's Infinite Playlist. Today we have KickAction Collective. How are you guys doing?
Oh, fantastic.
Doing great.
Wonderful.
You guys want to introduce yourselves and your instruments?
My name is Jade. I play the bass and I sing.
I am Gary. I play guitar and I also sing.
My name is Jeff, and I play drums and percussion instruments.
I'm Julie. I go by Julie, and I play violin, guitar, and I do a little bit of vocals.
Very awesome. When I saw you setting up at Flamingo, I was like, oh my god, she's got so many things going on right now.
It's a lot, but it's worth it.
Yeah. So where did the name come from?
Oh man, I hate this one.
We're going to leave that with Gary.
So, when I was in Kansas City, before I'd moved down here, I had a band, and I kind of, at some point, it got really weird with those dudes, and I continued to write music even though they kind of trailed off, and I just decided, I just knew we were never going to play it with that band. I just knew the songs weren't going to work for them, so it just kind of came to me, and all the songs that we're writing, I would just put them under the title KickAction Collective. So by the time I got down here and met Jeff, it was kind of just there. It was just like that. That's what it was.
Nice. And how did you each get into music?
Well, dude, I don't know. I just wanted to play the drums one day, and so my parents bought me, like a $20 baby drum set, baby. And I tore that thing up, and I had so much fun. And then I joined this thing called School of Rock in McKinney and learned how to become part of a band. And that was, So, yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah. I was in New Jersey, and I was a total nerd. I crocheted and stuff, and I had no friends.
That's awesome.
Hung out with my grandma. And of course, that's when I decided I wanted to play clarinet, so it got me in the band. Then I moved back to Kansas City, and before you knew it, I had kind of found that there was guitar laying around one of my friends' places, and I started picking it up then, and then it kind of, I just forgot about the clarinet. Just kind of,
Never mind.
Bring that back,
It's
man.
guitar time. My dad played drums in this band called Enforcer. It was like the late 80s. They were doing like tours, and they were on a record label. They were doing all these things. And so I was around it ever since I was a baby. And my dad would take me to his practice space, which used to be like an old train car that was emptied out, and they put like sound insulation in there. It was called the Train Yard, and they could like play as late as they wanted. So there's like pictures of me on my dad's set, like, and he's playing metal, like hair metal. So his drum set was just like huge, bigger than life. And then he bought me a little drum set when I was probably around like 3 or 4, and then like around 6, or whenever my parents separated, I stopped playing music completely, and I kind of forgot about it. And then my 6th grade year, I picked up the trombone, and I tried playing that, and then I was like, man, I really like blowing into an instrument to play it, and I found myself like tapping things all the time. And then my dad was like, hey, you know, you used to play drums when you were a kid, like maybe you should try it out again. And so when I turned 14, my dad bought me my first set, and now it's been like 14 years.
History.
And and it got solidified because I joined the marching band in high school, and I ended up like going from like not being able to read music to leader of the percussion section.
Nice.
Ended up winning most improved musician my senior year. John Phillips. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you. Yeah, and then I ended up like
celebrity in that.
yeah, and then I actually got recruited by the choir director on my school to do choir. So I ended up doing choir, and I ended up taking districts, and I played in college, and then I stopped in college until I met Gary. And then when I met Gary, I started playing again, and now the fire is more alive than it's ever has been before.
You just can't get away from it.
Yeah, I can't. It's a part of my soul, so it's got to stay around.
Well, dang, now it's my turn.
This better be good.
I'm just so short. She's like, why did I go first?
Well, okay, so I don't know. Music was everywhere when I was growing up. My family played. I'm the youngest, so I was just waiting, to do that, to be able to play the guitar. But my dad wanted me to do other things first. I did sports, whatever. Got into music around 9, 10. Started with violin, actually, when I was 9, 5th grade. I wanted to do it so I can get, a little better at guitar, actually. Because I couldn't play guitar. My dad wouldn't let me touch the guitar until I was 10. So finally, turned 10, got my first guitar, and took lessons with my dad. I never really actually did, like, a guitar class. I was in orchestra throughout, classically trained, and loved it. I mean, yeah, we, like, did solo and ensemble and all that UIL stuff, Came out to Austin, actually started playing the violin to a little different type of use. And been able to play guitar a little more. I mean, I've always been playing guitar, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Hell yeah.
I don't know, it comes hand in hand. Like, I haven't stopped. It's just been music. Just recently, I guess, vocals. Been trying to explore that. See how that goes. I don't know. People seem to like it. I don't
The voice of an angel.
Stop it. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. And how did the band come together?
All right, so
Gary's good at it.
so I'll set the stage. This was like, so I had moved down here to Austin, like most people do, without shit. I was broke, and I was like, yeah, I can't even think about music right now because, I gotta live.
Right.
Survive.
I made this bed, I'm gonna sleep in it. Yeah, so I came down here and started working this real shitty job, and then, the more people you meet, you learn about Austin when you're not from Austin, and everybody's a musician. so I it was like the glands were salivating, and I was like, oh man, I really want to play music again, but I didn't know people, I didn't know how to get into the scene, but the place I had lived in, this cat lived across from me named Chris Denny, and, he was a weird character, and eventually I started hanging out with him, and he introduced me to this other cat named Shane Cooley, so I had originally started playing with him, and then I was like, God, I really, really would like to play my own music, because not exactly my cup of tea, but, I was just loving being in the scene there. So at that point, I was working at that apartment complex, and I had somebody move in, and I happened to go over there to check, make sure the move-in was all right, that kind of stuff. And I walk into the apartment, and there's a drum set just chilling in there. And I'm like, I was like, you play the drums? And she's like, no, it's my roommate. He's not here yet. And his name's Jeff. And I'll go, you give Jeff my number. I'd like to jam with him. A little bit more time progressed, and obviously no place to play this apartment complex.
Yeah.
But we did have this sweet, like, guest house sitting in the middle. It's like a full little house in the middle of the complex. So I'm like, yo, you know what? Fuck that, Jeff. We're gonna go in there. We're gonna play in there.
Yeah.
So
I was like, is it okay? He's like, oh, it's fine.
Don't worry about
we can
it.
do it.
Don't worry about it. You got this.
We haul all his stuff in there, and it's this empty little house too. And I have this little tiny amp that's like this big, and I thought I was gonna be able to hear myself. And instead, what happened was my ears just bled. Jeff's just tearing it up in there. But yeah, and then it was kind of it was like the snowball effect where we had started it up, and then before you know it, and enough Craigslisting around, you hop on Tinder a couple times, and it was more like, oh, you play music? Swiping right. So we, just bit by bit, we ended up meeting all these beautiful characters over time, but it kind of started with jumping into that house with Jeff there.
And making Gary's ears bleed.
Nice. Yeah, it was loud.
Yeah. Then eventually, just over the course of the past 4 years, we've gotten everybody together. So,
Yeah, they've been together for a while. Have you all been together for 3 years? Julie included?
With Julie, 3 years. 3 years. 1 year with
it's
Jay.
It's officially been a year with me.
Such beauty. Yeah, we've had some changes, some change in the lineup.
Just a few.
Just a couple.
Just a little.
But it's all been good, It's kind of like a rebirth every single time that, we do part ways, Most people we've left on good terms.
Wow.
Most people.
You can cut that, right?
Just kidding.
Shit happens.
Nice to everybody.
Well, and then we lost the bass player. His name was Austin, right as soon as, 3 or 4 months in? Well, actually, he just stopped kind of showing up to practice, and I didn't even know his name, and then that was just the end of the bassist.
Mm-hmm.
But then we really fucking vibed together, all 4 of us, and I was just like, hey guys, I own a bass, and they were like, it's done. We're a 4-piece. And that's literally how that went. I think I've been playing it for 6 months now?
Yeah.
8 months now?
Yeah.
And it's really fun.
And we also wanted to keep it that way because both the girls' names start with the J, and both the guy names start with the G. So we're like,
I'm so excited about this.
it's like this
Like
makes
an interracial.
I haven't thought about that in
You can't, it's just perfect. You can't fuck with any of that.
No! I'm like, that's like pure chemistry. It even balances. I'm like, all right,
Stars.
yes, it was in the stars.
No,
So.
literally, our practices were so fucking awesome, and it's cool that it's 4 of us. It's really cool.
Very cool. And do you remember the name of the first band you were in?
All of us?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Trip Kick. It had kick in the name,
Nice.
so that's funny.
Wow, what? Fate.
We were a psychedelic, funky, hard rock blues band you can surf to.
Dope.
That sounds.
I love it very much. But yeah.
That's awesome.
See, my first band was Never Ending Fear Project. And,
Oh.
yeah, we had
Is
t-shirts.
it still going?
It was
Did
tight.
you scale it?
I still got a Facebook page if you guys want to go
Do you still
drop some
have
likes.
t-shirts? Because I totally...
I could probably dig one of those some bitches up. I promise you. They weren't too shabby. It was essentially the combination of just all the music that I had been around. My dad was probably the biggest influence of music. So when I actually started writing, it was just me being a super fresh to writing music.
Yeah.
Plus the thickest of my inspiration. So me trying to do all the shit that I had no idea how to do. I took no lessons, So I just kind of took guitar and like, hey, this will work itself out, right? So it just developed this really weird sound, like one of those where you're like, oh, I'm not going to put a genre on that one, but, it's something,
It's music.
Right, fun.
The first band I was in was called Dead End Philosophy, and it was with my brother and my cousin and 3 other friends. It was a 6-piece, like, hardcore melodic death metal band.
Nice.
And just to give you some, like, perspective, I lived in a really small town of, like, 5,000 people called Raton, New Mexico, and it's all, like, country music and rap music, so we were very much an enigma in our community. Yeah. But for some reason, people really vibed with our music, and they would always go to our shows, and we, like, played all over the place in New Mexico and a little bit in Colorado as well. And we ended up breaking up because our lead singer, we found out that he liked little girls.
What?
Oh.
Yeah, he was 22, and we found out he had a restraining order from the middle school because he was preying on middle school girls. And so we were like, okay, that's really bad. And then one of our friends, she came up to us, and she was 11 at the time because we worked a summer program.
Yeah.
And she was just like, hey, your singer tried kissing me after a show.
Oh
And I was like,
God.
dude, you're 11 and he's 22. And she's like, yeah, so I can't go to your shows anymore. And so we're like, all right, dude, we got to kick you out of the band.
Yeah.
And then effectively, my cousin was like super best pals with this guy. And he's like, well, if you're kicking him out, go to kick me out too. And we're like, all right, peace.
That's a dead-end philosophy.
Yeah. That's a dead-end philosophy. Don't do that, people. Yes. So, yeah, it was a really strange experience.
Yeah.
And it left a bad taste in my mouth. And I really didn't like having a lead singer in any band after that. I was just like, can you play another instrument too so that you can be like distracted by an instrument?
Yeah. Can you please play the bass and not just sing?
Is that why I'm the bass player, Jade?
You can't just have her sing.
Sole reason?
Jade, we can't have you preying on little girls.
Oh man.
Yeah,
it's like a whole like lost prophet thing. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was really bad, and like it sucked because we really cultivated like a fan base in our hometown, and like seriously, there was no music scene in that town at all, and we kind of created one. We would just like play in places where they never had bands, and we would get paid, and it was like crazy. We're like, what? Are we like legit becoming a band? Like, what? It was really hard to believe, and it seemed like, I don't know, like the bubble was gonna pop, which it did, but like it was just surreal that the first band I was in was like doing all these things in a small little town with like nobody. Yeah. And we were like in the newspaper, we were all like on TV, and it was just like really weird that all that happened. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it just like, it was a house of cards that just fell down.
Somebody pulls the old Michael Jackson on you, man. Yeah, so, I mean, it was pretty bad, but I've never had an experience like that ever since, so.
That's good, yeah.
Thank God. How shitty would it be if I had to go through that? Every band I'm in. The singer is a pile of shit.
I have to give it up for that little girl for being brave enough to be like, hey, your lead singer's a douche.
Yeah, for real though, yeah.
That's really scary, Jeff. I honestly might be a little traumatized too.
Yeah, okay, so I didn't want to.
I quit.
I can't do this.
Damn it! I should have never told that story. So just to elaborate a little baby bit more, so like before that incident with that girl happened, he was dating a 14-year-old.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And her parents were okay with it.
Oh, what the?
He's a rock star.
Oh, you're dating a rock star, baby. It's fine.
He'll take care of you with his music.
Yeah. So that was.
Parents can be really weird sometimes. I don't know. I don't always get it.
You're telling me. That's what I want to do.
I'm right. I have friends that like they were dating they were in high school like 15, 16, and they're dating like 22, 23-year-olds, and I'm like, oh wait, but what about your parents? I'm like, they're cool with it, and I'm like,
He's living with us.
No. Ew.
Hey, it happens. Like some of these stories.
That's true. Yeah.
There's a lot of America that people don't understand exists.
That's true.
Fine with
Very
me.
true.
That's a good point. That's true. I think it's Julia's turn.
What's the name of your first
It is
name?
coming.
Follow that.
I don't. Can we do a different order next time?
Chivalry.
No, I mean mine's definitely not as exciting. Just a tad bit embarrassing. So it was called Nemesis of the Underworld. We were a death metal Christian band.
What?
Yeah.
Confused horns.
I think maybe. I don't know. They're not the devil, right? This is rock and roll.
You actually make a cross with your forearm, and it's like super hardcore. You know?
Warrior God! Sorry.
And then just, I mean, I don't remember all the names of them, but that
Yeah.
one kind of stuck with me a little bit.
Yeah. That's nice.
That's
Fun
good.
fact, I did grow up, doing a little bit, like some praise band stuff.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
You got to give it up to
Lincoln
the Lord.
Brewster, man. Lincoln
Yep.
Brewster. Have you heard those solos? Look at them up.
Was it under?
Look 'em up.
Inspired by God.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite questions, just because I tend to hear some really great names from it. So,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
That's a good point.
How many bands have you guys been in before KickAction?
1, 2, 3. I would say probably like 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably 5 tops. When I was in college, I really didn't play music. I kind of gave up. The town I lived in was geared towards country music, and
Yeah.
I just don't play country music. It's personal opinion,
What the
personal
hell, man?
preference. Yeah, sorry. I'll play almost anything but country.
I liked you, Jeff.
And so when it was nothing but country, I was like, there's no point. So I just stopped playing, and I would jam with my brother, and then my brother got really into like EDM music, like dubstep and stuff, and then he stopped playing guitar. And so I stopped playing drums.
Yeah.
And this is going to sound like really stupid, but when I moved to Austin, I knew nothing. I knew that Stevie Ray Vaughan was from Austin. Maybe not originally, but like he came from Austin. And then I knew it was the capital, and I knew it was where UT was. That was like it. So when I learned that Austin had a crazy, vibrant music scene, I was like, oh man, maybe I can like do music here.
Yeah.
And then it's like the stars aligned because Gary ended up being like the person who moved my roommate and I in. And I mean, it took me a little bit of time to contact him. I think it took me like a month or two.
Yeah. It was a bit.
It was
You
a
were
little bit
sitting
of
there
time.
like,
Well, I wasn't sure. I was just like, because I knew it was going to be a commitment. I was like, if I hit him up, that means I definitely want to be in a band.
Yeah.
And I definitely want to play music. And at the time, like him, when he said earlier, like I moved here with nothing, didn't know what I was going to do. It was kind of on a whim moving here. It was just an opportunity to leave New Mexico. So I was just like, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to go to Austin, see what happens.
yeah.
And so I had to really like deliberate that decision. And then eventually I was just, you know what, fuck it, let's do it. And so, not a lot of bands.
Yeah.
But I'm not with you beautiful people, so.
Question, I mean, does high school band count?
Yes.
Sweet.
It always counts.
Then I've got a solid 2 bands.
Damn!
Yeah, I was bass clarinet in my way through high school band, and then I had my first project. It was like the first music I did, ironically. It's like, yeah, just those 2.
If you want to count... Okay, so I technically answered my question about my first band wrong.
Okay.
Except my first band, Rewind, we didn't actually ever do anything.
Yeah.
But you can look us up on Facebook, YouTube, everything.
Marketing on point.
Like, we got all the social media taken care of. All right, what's happening? Nothing.
There's that. But then... and then nothing happened. We just all lived too far away. And then Trip
Yeah.
Kick happened through the School of Rock. I love them so much. They were awesome. We had to break up because our guitarist went to college, and then we just did a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
And then my third band, which is my last band before KickAction, was called American Beauty. Y'all are assholes if you're listening. Oh my god, they wouldn't let me. They didn't like anything I bro. They didn't like the way I sang. I was like, why am I even in this band with y'all? Like,
Seriously.
they were so rude. I hated the genre, but I was so desperate to be a part of music, which was not a part of where I'm from, that I stayed in it. And maybe I learned something. I don't know.
That's a good way to learn.
Fuck assholes.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess you learn something from everything, but then... So that was probably only like 6 months, and then I was just like, fuck y'all, I'm moving to Austin, and I did, and here we are.
Woo!
KickAction.
Blow it out.
Woo!
Yeah, KickAction's probably one of the most like serious bands for sure. I could say definitely the most serious band I've been in. Everything else is just play, hobby. I've never really done anything with that I put so much passion and practice and put so much of myself into. So I'd consider actually this probably my first band.
What?
That's supposed to be a heart.
Thanks.
Those are some big hops for you, my fool. That's legit.
They're cool, I guess.
Yeah, I can see.
And describe your music.
Oh man,
All right.
come on.
So,
Can never get that one
first
right.
of all,
I'm like,
if
what do you
would have
think?
told me
Badass.
to ask this question, wouldn't have agreed to this.
Does it help if I say it's not a genre question? Because fuck genres.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I mean, I'd definitely describe us, I'd use the word alternative in there.
yeah, it's
for sure.
alternative. I mean, I think the main thing about our songs is that each one is like a jump from the other one. So that's why it's kind of hard to be like, yeah, we're like a blues rock band, because not all of our music is like that. Like one song may be like that, so you can kind of chunk it into that one. But within our songs, there's all these little tiny particles of different stuff that like everybody throws in. Like when we met Julie, our worlds were fucking blown open. Like, oh my god!
You mean you can violin in a song?
She wants to play with us. Yeah, it was
This
crazy.
could be a thing. Is this just in yellow card?
Exactly.
Hey, we cover a song. You never know. No.
Please do.
The alternative is probably like the big bass to it. What was it Samantha Lee said of us?
Gypsy rock.
Gypsy rock.
Yeah.
I like that.
There's
I like
some
that too.
bluesy tones, and there's some teen angst in there.
There is.
I've never let go of the used. I love those dudes. Like, exactly. I used to listen to Billy Talent. It's one of those things you get older, and everybody's listening to new music as the world changes, and like you turn on my Spotify, and it's just like My Chemical Romance playlist. Hell yeah, guys, I'm not okay. Like, fuck yeah, dude. All right.
Do you know about Emo Night?
Safe twat.
Jimmy Wednesday.
Safe
Yes,
twat.
Jimmy Wednesday. Okay.
Oh, Jimmy Wednesday.
So, Swan Dive does Jimmy Wednesday, which is local bands, which is always amazing. But Barbarella's, which is right next door, like they share a backyard, does music videos from the early 2000s of like pop punk and emo, and it's legitimately my favorite night of the month. I went to every single one last year, not even ashamed of it.
No. That speaks
Not even
That's actually pretty impressive.
It honestly it is, because it's on a
easy.
Wednesday.
Yeah. It's not
on a
easy to make
Wednesday
the
night.
first Wednesday.
Yeah,
right?
it's the first Wednesday of every month. I started out mostly at Barbarella's and very quickly moved over to mostly at Swan Dive because it's a great place to look for bands for my podcast. So
Perfect.
Yeah.
Hey, that
very much.
right there.
You guys should definitely try to get in there.
Yeah, I mean, we've played Swan Dive before. It would be nice to play there again.
I have.
Yeah, we need to play. Okay, so we haven't played with Jade. It's
So it needs to
time
happen.
to make that happen yet
Do it.
again. Yeah,
We'll call it our first time.
We've never played at Swan Dive.
Let's make this happen.
We'll make this happen.
Yeah, but seriously.
No, yeah, it's amazing, and every time they do try to mix it up every time at Barbarella's, but you are guaranteed to hear "Sugar We're Going Down." I'm not okay, I promise.
Yes.
Like the staples, they're gonna be played at some point, sometimes twice.
Just the background. Sandra, you bitch.
If you ever just just want to see people going crazy over like Helena or anything. It's amazing. Like it's a fantastic night. I'm so excited that the first one this year. I got on their Instagram.
Oh, I saw that.
Did you see
Yes,
that?
I didn't know what that
I
was.
was so excited.
Nice.
So for the first one of every year during Free Week, and then their anniversary, they have the bands play covers. So each band like covers a different band. And one of my favorite bands covered Paramore, and you just see me like sing along. Really,
What's
like,
the
hardcore. It was.
You know.
I don't
That's
know which
awesome.
one when they took the picture. It was so great because like the one that they put on Instagram, it's like you can see me like over here, but there's another one that they posted on Facebook, and I remember the guy taking the picture because his camera was right next to my head, and it's just like a close up of me, and I was like, yeah.
I deserve
It's like
this.
Drew.
I deserve it.
I mean, considering how many times I've been, how many people I've brought, like, come on.
It's the least they could do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. What are your shows like?
What are they like? Is that what
Yeah.
you said? So much fun.
Yeah.
I love them.
They really are a lot of fun. I feel like a lot of people, so we have some people who go to most shows,
Yeah.
and they know the words, they kind of sing along with it. But I would say, actually, most of the time, it's people who have never heard us before. And they always seem to really enjoy themselves. You see people moving, kind of rocking out. And I feel like our stage chemistry is awesome. It's just improving every time we
single
play.
show.
Yeah.
It gets better and better and better. And so shows are high energy, upbeat, sort of eclectic, because you're like, oh, what are they doing? Like,
Yeah.
what? And then, like, Julie, there's a song that we play where Julie is starting on the violin.
Yeah.
And then she puts it down and then pulls up the guitar. And people are like, what the
She
fuck?
goes from soloing from one to the other.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's awesome.
And some people are
Check out
really...
the show.
Yeah. People get really impressed by it, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's the element of surprise too, because like the four of us walking together, you're like,
Those
what the
guys.
fuck is going on? Who's your dad over there? You know, it's so weird. And I think getting up there and playing what we do play, a lot of the times, it'll have people like sitting back, like,
What's going on?
oh, wow, okay, all right,
I can get into
that's
this.
interesting. Didn't know you guys could do that.
Yeah, and our EP show, which was the last show we played,
Sorry, I
was...
didn't make it.
It's okay.
I'll be there.
You're at the House of Torment,
I
girl.
was.
It's okay. But that was definitely, I'd say, the best show we played together, personally. And then now, like, I've been learning their songs because they've been a band for so long, and they were without a singer for so long. Everyone wanted to jump to the stage, and so I had to jump and learn their songs,
Yeah.
which is awesome, but, like, it was a lot of learning. And then, like, recently, the past couple shows have been, like, I don't have to think about this. I don't have to worry about this. My bass amp doesn't have wheels anymore. I'm sorry, Julie. But now I can jump off of it. So
nice.
that's
Hey.
awesome.
Hell
I'm
yeah.
going to approve that. So you're good. It's a jump off of.
So it's an approval.
Let me do it
They kind of
first.
just fell off. I blame the earth.
It's your gravity.
But yeah. So.
Ever evolving.
Yeah. What's your favorite thing about playing live?
Energy, man.
The crowd.
Yeah.
Definitely the energy.
Yeah.
Kind of feed off of it.
Yeah.
You know? And the more into it the crowd is, the more into it we are. And sometimes vice versa. We're like really
Yes.
into it, then the crowd's like, what? They're rocking out. We need to rock out too. So
Yeah.
it's really cool when that happens. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I like being able to like accidentally kick glasses off stage and nobody gives a shit.
Right?
There's something special about that. Anywhere else you're like, go home, you drunk bastard. And it's like kick a chair off stage and everyone's like, tight.
Do it again.
Do it, bro.
No, and I love logging onto Facebook the next day. There's always a bunch of new likes.
Yeah.
And it's just like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. And then just meeting people, new people.
Yeah.
It's great. I think I speak for almost everybody here, but meeting new people is awesome, and just networking and connecting with our fans is something that is just really kind of just puts a smile on your face.
Yeah.
So I like
And
that too.
playing with new cool ass bands like Chihuahua and stuff. It's fun when you're playing with
meeting our
really
peers.
Cool bands.
Yeah.
Meeting our peers is great too. I mean, playing shows is one of the easiest ways to meet even more people in the industry.
Yeah.
And Austin has such a great community with local bands. I didn't think it was possible to live somewhere like this. I know that other places are very cutthroat, backstabbing kind of places, but
I've been incredibly impressed. Like, every time I go to a show, I see other musicians that I know at that show just there to support it, and it warms my heart.
Yeah,
There's
Austin's the shit.
a lot of sense of camaraderie here.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's definitely not, like, any competition here. Everybody's like, we just... And then they open their arms to people like me that do podcasts. And just,
yeah, I mean, if you're involved in the scene, you'll probably make a friend in it.
Yeah.
Really fast.
Art in general, man. I mean, like, you know, even when I was, you know, well, when I was playing with Shane and the Lucky Kings, it was just a cool period of time, not necessarily because of I was really digging the music that, you know, that I was playing with, you know, which, you know, you grow to love new genres that you've kind of been thrust into, but the vast amount of people and, like, now going places or being online is such a more open world just because of that one decision, you know, like the folks, you just never know, you know, and Austin's that place where it could be like, I was standing in line to grab a taco, and then, you know, now I'm doing this, that, and this.
You're working at House of Torment, and you happen to find out that somebody that works there is also in a band, and you're just like, wait, what?
Hold on, what was that?
Music? We have something to talk about.
I have the only reason I ever miss working at the House of Torment, gotta love that place, is for my band. Like, the only reason, flat out, ever. Any other job, I don't give a fuck. Like, but if we have a gig, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't make it.
Yeah.
My two favorite things.
Exactly. Yeah, mine too. And what's your writing process like?
Well, that's another good one. Because up until now, kind of what I'll call like the rebirth of KickAction, one of the rebirths, the big rebirth, we'll say.
Yeah, this is the big one for sure.
I mean, up until then, you know, I'd written 98% of everything, and one of our oldest members, our old singer Ricky, you know, she had started kind of getting in the flow. You know, me and her started ping ponging stuff off.
Yeah.
But that was just kind of, you know, the base set of stuff. So I already had these songs, and then it was only about everybody else came in and got to put in their own flavor to it into the pot. So I had like made the beef stock, you know, and how people were throwing in the veggies and meats and stuff.
Yeah.
But now that, you know, that soup has gone bad, we got this new pot of soup that we're cooking up here.
That worked.
And our approach is now, I mean, we're in the writing process for, you know, our first full-length album. And the idea is going to be completely different. You know, we had this, like, storyline to our old songs. We actually had, like, some writers working on it that, you know, developed this short story, and I created this whole thing, and it was just like this dream thing that I had, you know, and I would write songs for it. I loved it. You know? And, you know, we had Chris, I can't remember the dude's name. He was like an anime voice dude.
Not Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt.
No, Pat.
Oh,
Patton, Chris Patton.
Yeah,
So
come
he did like
it's like Chris Pratt.
he did like the voice acting for like characters in like Dragon Ball Z and like Full Metal Alchemist. I'm a complete anime nerd if you haven't told me. Anyway, so it was cool, and it was like I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, this could be tight. But this time around, you know, it's a whole new fucking world. So, you know, I'm more than stoked because everybody's thrown in. You know, with Julie playing more guitar, and then Jade's already been writing music before. You know, there's just endless possibilities, and you know that approach is going to be different. And Jeff's gonna, you know, start start playing some guitar too.
No. No.
I mean, I'm in the process of learning.
I'm saying this on your
sort of.
podcast, so hold him to it. Me and Jeff are going to switch because I started out as a drummer, and he's going to write a song, and I'm going to get behind the drums, and he's going to be up front.
Playing the bass.
And it's going to be fucking awesome. It's going to happen.
It will happen. Keep your eyes peeled, everybody.
That's exciting.
But yeah, we literally just started writing. Like, because our EP show was in December.
Yeah.
Like, we just started.
But album's coming out next month, so
Next month.
Really quick.
Do not listen to Julie.
Please don't look for that.
stop telling people that.
But find our Facebook page and give us a like.
I'll keep you posted on that.
Keep your eyes and ears peeled, everybody.
And who are your influences? Julie, would you like to go first on this?
Yeah, let's go. Let's start with Julie this time.
For guitar, definitely like Stevie and like Stevie Ray Vaughan, Carlos Santana, Jimmy. I mean the classics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I grew up a lot with that, and I mean my dad. If I can be honest too, my dad, paid his way through college here in Austin in a band too, and I mean all the music that I know, came from my dad. So I have a lot of influence that way too, and from guitar I just transpose that to violin. So I mean it's hard to transform classical style to this what we're playing, but I can throw a few blues licks everywhere. So
Everywhere.
everywhere more.
More.
Yeah, so that's
Nice.
an answer. Right?
Yeah. Let's see. For me, my first huge influence was the Foo Fighters. Actually, I would play Everlong all the time.
Yes.
All the time. And my mom was like, stop tapping every time you hear this song. And I was just like, buy me
This song is so good.
a drum set then. And then my dad's like, ta-da! And then all of a sudden I had a drum set, and then I learned Everlong. But then after that, I fell into Led Zeppelin, John Bonham. Major influence on my drumming. I used to play along to Led Zeppelin songs and DVDs for years. And then it slowly progressed into my metal roots. I've always played metal until I joined this band. And I used to listen to Lamb of God. Chris Adler, huge inspiration for me. As well as some other metal drummers, Between the Barrett and Me. Blake Richardson, huge inspiration for me as well. But, since I play in a band that doesn't play metal, I've had to, tweak my influences a little bit. I mean, I haven't forgotten my roots, but, I went back to listening to, Queens of Stone Age. Really love their drummer as well. Don't know his name. Can't give him a shout-out. But love his drumming. Still awesome, bro. And, classics, kind of like what Julie said. I love the classics, and even though I don't play stringed instruments, I kind of, for some reason, have changed my ears to listen to guitar. I think it's from playing with my brother when I was younger. But I listened to the guitar initially, then the bass. Sorry, Jade. But then eventually, now it's kind of 50-50.
Yeah.
Initially, it was just I never heard the bass. I was guitar. And so I'd write my drums based on guitar licks. And then now I've learned over time, you don't do that. So now I've been doing more bass influence things and drum focus things. But yeah, that would have to be my influences.
Nice.
First and foremost, Coheed and Cambria. I had a house fire when I was a sophomore year of high school, so we lost everything. And it's one of those moments where you know what the fuck you're doing as a teen, and there's a lot of shit going on. And my best buddy Andrew, I remember being on his mom's like, yeah, we'll go to a little vacation. So she took us on a trip to Branson, Missouri, which is the redneck Las Vegas rides. Totally into it. But it's pretty good.
It doesn't sound like a bad time,
okay.
yeah.
You like go-karts and rides. Yeah, so on the ride down there, he let me listen to the song on his Walkman, because we were tight like that back then. And it was Favorite House Atlantic. That's right when, that In Keeping Secrets it came out. And I was just like, oh my God, all the R&B I've been listening to from my family, this has changed. And I completely, just dove into it. It helped me out, you know, like what Claudio Sanchez had done and with his music and learning about it, it just gave me something to like commit myself to. And then, of course, you know, Queens of the Stone Age followed right behind that. I remember it was like one of the first rock videos back when Fuse was tight. It was one of the first videos that I never really listened to a lot of rock music back then, and I just remember watching that video for No One Knows. The deer punches him in the face and throws him up there, and I was just like, you know what? I'm not sure about this music, but this video is fucking killing it. And then before
I remember watching that the first time, and I was like, what the fuck is happening? I love it.
Shit, dude, Nick Over's going crazy. Yeah, dude. Yeah, and then everything kind of was, you know, I guess my inspiration is kind of based on that, you know, like, I'm one of the weird souls where, like, I recognize, like, the classics, the greats, but I never wanted to, like, play, like, Jimi Hendrix music. I, you know, bow down to all the greats, but I was never one of those dudes that wanted to, like, learn anybody else's songs. I mean, even when I started playing, I never really wanted to be like, oh, yeah, let me try to learn this Coheed and Cambria song. I was like more interested in playing my own, but it kind of creeped in over time as I got better.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then it was weird, like Billy Talent and My Chemical, you know, Thrice, and like they just kind of shifted around weird, and you know, that's where I am now.
Hell yeah.
My influences, Hayley Williams from Paramore. I love her. She's like 5'1".
She's amazing.
And she commands the whole fucking stage.
She does.
And she's amazing. But yeah, so her, and then she's just so little, and it's really inspiring because sometimes we get forgotten about.
I have not met a short girl in my life that doesn't make sure that people know she's there. Not one.
No, one time I had people tell me that I'm so small, everything I did canceled out, and I didn't even exist.
What?
That's really rude.
Where do they live?
I know, right? Like, who are they? I will beat the shit out of them right now.
Can we make them not exist?
Right.
It was supposed to be me. I'm pretty sure it was like Fred, but it was just like,
Oh, I'm sorry then.
Oh,
You're
then
so mean.
you're cool. Not.
you're cool.
That's a really mean thing to say to somebody that's supposed to be your friend. Don't say shit like that.
Wow, guys, you really have my back.
Damn straight we do.
But and then Robert Plant, I love singing Robert Plant. I think I can sing Robert Plant really well, and he's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And like John Bonham, John Paul Jones, all of them.
It's all Zeppelin.
Yeah, literally. And then Tame Impala's bass lines. So Kevin Parker, my fucking man.
Nice.
Oh my god, I listen to Tame Impala like just for the bass lines. And yeah, I mean Dave Grohl on the drums and vocals and everything. Dave Grohl in general.
Dave
Thank you for being alive.
Thanks, Dave Grohl.
And Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
Just because he's a great musician, but he's just been going for so long. It's kind of like you just gotta aspire to be like him.
Yeah.
He's like 85, still touring. Like,
Yeah.
it's just inspiring.
impressive, yeah.
That's incredibly impressive.
Like, Ringo Starr, where are you? What are you doing? I don't know.
I know what Paul McCartney's doing. I know my dad is a musician. He plays the bass, and he's 63 or 64 now, and he still will. He could do like 2 4-hour sets in one day, and I'm like,
It's awesome.
I don't even know if I could do that.
See, that's my dad too.
Yeah.
He goes from place to place, always doing it.
Kick-ass dads. And who do you listen to that you think would surprise people?
I listen to EDM. I actually have found myself really into EDM lately, and I can't help it. But now, I have friends now in Austin that actually make it, and, like, it's music. Like, they have to come up with every single thing in that song, and I never realized that, because I definitely used to be a hater, and then, like, I never realized that, and now I just can't stop jamming to it.
Yeah.
That's probably
There's
it.
like a little bit that I can get into. The closest that I've really gotten, I started getting into K-pop recently.
Wow, that's a new thing.
It's pretty fantastic. Like, especially, so I grew up loving boy bands. NSYNC is number one. And they are definitely like the late 90s, early 2000s boy bands with like a more modern sound to them. And it's pretty amazing.
Pretty much, yeah, that's true. Gary, what's your guilty pleasure?
I don't know if it's really guilty. I mean, my dad exposed me to so much stuff from like Sting.
This is not a guilty pleasure question.
Yeah.
There's no guilty pleasures.
I know.
in music. Not at all.
Straight up. Yeah, I mean, like, I can sing so much random stuff. You know, of course, you know, like, any of your Motown stuff is, like, a given, but, like, Billy Idol and, like,
Nice.
Sting and, like, you know, just so much random stuff and Hall & Oates and, like, stuff where, like, my wife will be like, how do you know the words of this? I'm just like, you have a lot to learn.
Yeah. I'll surprise my dad sometimes by, like, being like, oh, that's that band, like an older band, and he's like, how do you know that? And I'm like, it's your fault.
Oh, yeah.
You played it all the time, like, yeah.
It would probably be like any 80s or 90s pop music. My mom, like, engulfed me in that when I was a child.
Yeah.
And so I know almost any major song off the top of my head. Probably even all the words off the top of my head, too. So, like, whenever, like, I go to Barbarella's pretty often. And,
Big fan of Barb's.
yeah, big fan of Barb's. And, you know, they usually play music in that era. And so I'm always like, yeah, I know every fucking word to this.
Yeah.
Woo! And it's like Tuesdays or something.
Yeah.
I'm there with my girlfriend. Woo! And we're just like, don't you listen to metal? Like,
Yes,
but fuck
people are
you.
multifaceted.
Yeah.
And what's your go-to karaoke song?
Go-to karaoke song. Anything by Tenacious D.
Oh my god.
I know every single word to every single Tenacious D song.
That's amazing.
And so if somebody's like, karaoke right now, I'm like, all right, give me double team. Let's do this.
That's
Let's
You
fucking
know the words?
do
Nah,
this.
I got it.
What about you, Jade? What's your go-to karaoke?
Karaoke?
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know if I've ever actually like experienced karaoke. I'm being really honest right now.
We'll go.
Can we please do this? We
Yeah,
need a
no, I'm
karaoke.
really
night.
After we're done here, we need to go karaoke.
Dude, I'm almost
because-
totally done. Yeah, we gotta go.
Yeah, we gotta
What's your go-to karaoke song?
go to karaoke.
Yeah. Just gonna slide that in, Julie. You now have to answer two different questions.
Let's see, Fuck Her Gently by Tenacious D. It's my favorite, because
I just said Tenacious D was
it
favorite,
just
man.
wows the shit out of you. Like, what the fuck is this dude doing?
You don't.
Alright, seriously, like, karaoke after this, like. Alright, Julie.
So no diggity.
Hey, there we go.
There's
I like
a
the
little
way you
something
work
different.
it.
Yes.
There's that. What was the other question?
But, who do you listen to that you think would surprise people?
Oh, I mean, I grew up metalhead too, a little bit. I mean, I used to love to dance to country. My mom used to, like, you know, Tejano and then Solid Gold, you know, like, I don't know, everything. So,
Did you ever listen to... okay, my dad plays the bass in Tejano bands. He has played with Ram Herrera, and he also used to play with Little Joey La Familia.
yeah, definitely, yeah. Like, Joe Posada is actually a good friend. So, I guess Tejano,
Yeah.
salsa, whatever.
This is, The Chase is On.
Thank you for listening to Julie's Infinite Playlist. This podcast was created, edited, and produced by Julie Roth, with help from Nick Colbert, and special thanks to Nikki Nadeau. The theme song was created and produced by Animal Abstract. All of the songs performed belong to the musicians performing them. If you like the podcast, please rate and review on Apple Podcasts, and subscribe on Google Play, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Stitcher, and share it with your family and friends. Find us on Facebook and Instagram to keep updated on the podcast and when the bands featured are performing in Austin. Also, check us out on Snapchat to catch videos from shows I go to and maybe even some sneak peeks.